This is the Lotus Evija. Oh, and so's this. These are the most powerful hypercars we've ever tested. They have 2011 horsepower. They do 0 to 300 kilometers in 9.2 seconds. And yet, nobody wants them. Despite the gorgeous looks, the potential, and the fact that these are the lightest of the breed. So are EV hypercars just a fatally flawed concept, or are our brains preventing us from enjoying a whole new world of driving thrills? Well, today we're going to find out just how exciting and wild this thing is right here on the racetrack. We'll see if it can be as exciting as something like an Aston Martin Valkyrie on the road. And we might even do one of these. That's 100, 110, 120. Because, well, algorithm. So please park your cynicism and join us on a voyage of discovery. Okay, so I have the Lotus Evija key in my hand. Pretty simple, unlock, obviously, like any other car. There's also buttons to open the doors, but if you don't use those, you reach down here. It's a little push button, fully powered doors. And then that reveals this really cool interior, actually. You can see this lovely, elegant carbon tub. It's got sort of LaFerrari vibes, revealing the front wheel. It's nice and narrow. And then just looks mega in here. There's 5 driving modes. So let's go through all of those and get a little look at the environment inside. Okay, so first thing when you get in, the key has to go in a little slot down here, because if it doesn't, the immobilizer stays engaged. It's really nice in here. You've got a proper minimalist vibe, which sounds wild, doesn't it, for an EV supercar that weighs quite a lot. But this carbon fiber everywhere, bare carbon, it feels structural, this big dash panel, big holes in it. Negative space is a big part of the whole Evija experience. And then tiny little yoke, lovely view ahead. And this is where you get into the modes. So we have the 5 modes. Range mode, you have 800 Newton meters for that, same for city. And I think the speed limit's about 130 kph. Then you go into tour, that takes you up to 1000 Newton meters, raises the speed limit. And then when you go into sport and track, that's when the car really changes. The suspension stiffens up. We've got inboard suspension plus heave dampers to control the vertical movement without changing the ride height and the the roll stiffness. So sport and track, very similar, 1704 Newton meters, I think it is. The aero in track, the rear diffuser disappears up into its recess to make the diffuser as big as possible. You have to take off the rear number plate to do that. So if you see one of these on the road with no rear number plate, maybe they're in track mode, but it's obviously meant to only be for the circuit. And then the other real difference is track mode sends more of the torque to the front axle. So sport mode, I guess, a bit like Lamborghini do, they make sport a little bit more mobile at the rear, a little bit more chance of slide in the car. And then track mode, it becomes just about lap time. None of the modes allow you to turn off the ESP completely in traction control. So it's got its own logic for each mode, but you can never get rid of that completely. And we'll find out, but the car is probably doing a lot of things to get 2000 horsepower to the road. So that is basically it. Nice little display up here. It changes as you turn into track mode. So then you just press up here. In fact, you pull back this little paddle to close the door. Takes a while. And then when you've done that, you've got the mirror down here. So there's no physical mirror, it's a camera system. It's a little bit weird to get used to, but that's where it is. And that's it. Then it's simply press start, press drive, away you go. So it feels pretty special as a static object, but with over 2000 horsepower, what really counts is what it's like on the move. Can the Evija bring all those lovely old supercar and hypercar feelings bubbling up? I'll start in sport mode, as nobody wants to tour a racetrack, right? Very much a digital car, 4 motors, one for each wheel, and then the battery pack, rather than being a skateboard style battery, it's a cell or series of cells. It's like a battery pack where the engine in a mid-engine car would be. The idea to keep that centre of mass there and create the traditional impressions that we're used to with a mid-engine car. Other stuff, the steering is hydraulically powered, so Lotuses are renowned for that steering feel, and I have to say it feels lovely straight away. This little yoke feels really nice. What there isn't is any regen braking, another decision Lotus made because they want it to feel natural. I understand that absolutely, but because there's no engine connected via a gearbox, there's actually no engine braking. So rather than just not having regen, it's like you're sailing. But doesn't feel hugely heavy. Lovely positive front end. Let's open it up. Okay, it is wildly quick. What is immediately apparent is that I don't miss the paddles, which is weird. I thought the gearbox would be something I missed. It is a spaceship. It's unbelievably quick. Lovely flat body control, but it does feel a bit more natural than other like skateboard style cars I've driven. Lovely steering feel, lovely brake feel. Just so much performance. That is nuts. Sounds pretty cool as well. No fake noise here, or if there is, it feels natural. Will slide, but just a little. One thing I cannot do with this car is turn off the traction control. Wise probably in some ways, but I wish I could just tweak it a little bit more. Yeah, you can feel the torque vectoring just when you get understeer. As you get on the power, in a normal car, you just wash a bit more wide. You'd increase that angle of understeer, that slip angle. But with this, if you get understeer, you can just start to drive through it, and you feel the outside rear wheel start to drive you. Little bit of body roll. The dampers are electronically adjustable depending on the mode. So basically it's softer for city, tour mode, range mode, and then it stiffens up for sport and track. I'm in sport mode. Yeah, it does have a bit of mid-corner understeer. Oh, it just feels like it's going to start sliding. And then it gives up. If I pitch it in, yeah, it will slide, but it catches itself pretty quick.
It speaks volumes for the Evia's fundamentally sorted dynamics that very quickly I want to start pushing it right to the limit. The steering really is lovely, traction is strong, but the car certainly doesn't sanitise the massive power available. There's torque steer at well over 100 miles an hour, and the traction control light blinks furiously, even over 130. This is physical and very, very intense. But am I missing a monster high revving engine?
It's not a Valkyrie, that's for sure. Quite like the noise, and it's such an assault on the senses. I'm not sure you're desperately missing the engine. It's actually hurting my back as it's pinning me to the seat. Yeah, lovely stability, just a bit of roll at the front. Oh my God, the way it gets down the straight. The thing that you do miss without a gearbox and the engine is some of your normal frames of reference in terms of braking distances, and because you're accelerating so fast, you feel like you're being really conservative. but actually you then find yourself deep in the ABS. It's hard to convey just how quick the Lotus Evija is, but the gods of Google tell us we have to do a drag race. So what we really need is something with at least 1,000 horsepower, mid-engine, carbon fibre, the whole deal. Maybe a Koenigsegg, but sadly we do not have a Koenigsegg. Instead, we have this car, Honda Civic Type R. I arrived in this thing, I absolutely love it. It's an everyday performance icon, and we're gonna get a graphic illustration of what it's like when you drive a pretty quick, really nice performance car against a spaceship. So here we go. No real drama to launching this car. Put it in sport or track, pin the throttle, see what happens.
Three, two, one, go.
It is unbelievable. That's 100, 110, 120. So quick. The Honda is back there somewhere. It's violent, but I think the big saloons that I've driven, you know, the Lucid Air, Sapphire, etc., they make you feel really giddy and sick, and I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the suspension dive, but this, nice and flat right on the deck, and it's not as unnatural feeling. Like, it's unnaturally fast, but it doesn't feel out of kilter. 0 to 60 in 2.0 seconds, so straight out the box, pin the throttle, fastest 0 to 60 I've done by a margin.
Track mode awaits, and we'll be back to Anglesey soon. But now let's see how the Evija performs out in the wild on a perfect day. Well, it was extremely windy, hence the crazy hair, but otherwise perfect.
It's funny how your perspective and view of a car can change from road to track, which is why it's always great to get a go in both environments. And that's for good and for bad. So with the Evija, I think just getting in the car on the road, suddenly the view out seems even more important and really lovely. It's got that McLaren or Honda NSX, original NSX, really low scuttle, and you feel like you can place the car perfectly. You've got the front wings as a reference point, and you just feel absolutely connected to the road. I'm in tour mode, so slightly more comfortable ride, less power, but plenty of power. I'm just cruising along, and it's very nice just to stroke along. Even when you're just stroking it along, you're going at a decent pace. The steering is really, really nice. Lotus, as I said on the track, renowned for their steering, but I think they lost it a little bit with the Emira. Became a bit sticky and heavy, but this is pure and really, really nice. And it creates this lovely light feel for such a heavy car, but it also brings you directly into the driving experience. And I guess if EVs, for me, have had a problem, is that you just feel like a bit of a spectator. They do some incredible things, but you're not feeling like you're much part of the action. But this car has just a lovely flow and gait about it, and the steering is the key to all of that. Ride quality feels pretty good in tour mode, but it does have some issues. And I think found it a bit on the track. The car is very, it can get very agitated on the brakes. You suddenly feel the mass behind you, the car's sort of moving around, trying to find grip from the tyres. The tyres aren't that big at the front, 265, so big, but not like outrageous. And I do get pulled a lot around the road, even in a straight line, but if you've got that bumps and then you're braking, it does feel quite busy. And when you've got this runaway acceleration that you have in this car, you don't want busy on the brakes. You want absolute stability, because it's so manic in a straight line that when you brake, you want instant reassurance and calmness. And instead, you get more action. The manic nature actually continues. When you punch it, even in tour mode, it feels really quick. I do love the steering. Lovely agility. On the road, the fact that the car doesn't feel exceptionally agile in terms of, it doesn't give you that rear axle turning the car in feel. On the road, that's fine, because you're not getting understeer or oversteer really on the road in a car like of this potential. So that's less of an issue, and it just feels really fluid and secure. Of course, on the road, you're going a bit slower and you've got time to pine for an internal combustion engine as well, don't you? So how much am I missing that sensation on the road? I'm not as desperately sad that I don't have a screaming V8 or V12 as I thought maybe I would be. And I do like the noise. There's no fake noise in this car, so what you hear is what's making the thing go, and I like that. Would I be more involved with an internal combustion engine and a gearbox, even a paddle shift? Yes. Lovely direction change though. Let's whack it up to sport. Very quick, but yeah, I don't know if you can sense that, but this is a bumpy road, but not insane. But the car is two hands. If I brake, it's extremely busy. And like I say, when you've got a car this quick, you don't want to feel instability on the brakes. To me, that's too much. And it's a strange thing to have an edge under braking when the cornering is so deliberately stable and doesn't use the torque vectoring to create, that instant yaw. So you've got this really stable, hooked up, fluid, gives you confidence, and then when I need to brake, the car wants to move around. What it doesn't have, talk about impossible benchmarks, but is the unbelievable platform control, ride quality, and sense of just pure, lightweight, stiff, responsive, almost race car excitement that you get with a Valkyrie. The Valkyrie is unreal on the road. Like, it's so absorbing, and this thing is really impressive, but it can't replicate that. And I do worry about that stability on these bumpy roads. I do love the way it turns in though.
So once again, the lack of a living, breathing internal combustion engine doesn't really reveal itself as a killer flaw. The Evija is so overwhelmingly fast that perhaps your brain just doesn't have the capacity to miss all those sounds and smells. However, the range, which Lotus claims to be 195 miles, is actually much less if Sport is selected and you find yourself on an empty road. The use case gets very tricky at this point. Those 4 motors take some feeding. I suppose at least you can look at all those gorgeous details whilst it's charging.
So this is the $1 million view of the Evija, isn't it? I guess it's more like the $3 million view, but the rear end is just stunning. Up here we've got the suspension inboard that we can see through, no engine through here obviously, but we've got the inboard suspension and the third element, the heave damper as well, which is just really cool. Multimatic dampers for the car. These tunnels, which are just fantastic. This car's got huge aero performance actually, 1500 kilos at VMAX, they say, in sport or track mode. This is the rear wing, obviously 2 positions. In range and city mode, it's down. In range mode, I think you can only do 83 miles an hour, in city 100 miles an hour. But then when you select Tour, Sport or Track, the wing goes up. Now, on the road, you can't have track mode, and it's for real, because to do so, you have to take off the number plate. Back here, you can see these parts of the diffuser, lower parts of the diffuser. When you select track mode, they recess to make the diffuser deeper, to make the angle steeper, and to create more rear downforce. But to do that, you have to take off the rear plate. This is where the car feels like a proper hypercar.
Okay, it's time. Let's take that plate off and get the full aero effect in track mode and head back to Anglesey.
Maximum downforce, maximum attack. Same performance, which is fine. Yeah, it does not want to slide at all now. It's just super efficient. God, it's physical just because you're going so quick. It's busy, the traction control, just sorting out the mass and the power, but really feels super alert and responsive. This is pretty impressive actually. I mean, this isn't a huge circuit, but I imagine this thing would shrink any second. Jesus, there is ample room to outbrake yourself, fly into the scenery. You're going so much quicker than you think. Every time the car's pointing straight or even close, just feels a bit tippy-toe through there. I don't have the confidence through the quick stuff because feels like there are different frames of reference and I don't fully trust the brakes are going to stop me. So busy if it does slide, all sorts of systems. It feels a bit like a Ferrari SF90, it's not happy when there's angle at all and it's playing with brakes and torque vectoring, makes everything feel like you're going downhill. But I do love the positivity of the car. You can hustle it, but it feels like the chassis is slightly in a fight with physics, which it is. It's so unbelievably fast. It takes a lot of concentration just to pick braking points, and it does actually hurt your neck. It's wildly quick. So how to sum this thing up? Well, amazing, absurd, totally outrageous, and much more engaging than I feared it might be. It's not boring. My God, it's working hard to deploy this performance. so much happening. It's wild. Yeah, I do not feel bored. The question is, do I feel fully entertained? I think yes. But it's a different, weirdly it's just a different experience, but it's physical and intense. And you feel a tiny bit robbed of your traditional, all the cues, all the things you've learned over the years about driving a quick car, they're there, but they're different enough that it feels strangely alien. The front axle is going completely wild. The hotter the front tyres get, the front axle is doing some crazy stuff. Yeah, that's nuts. That is nuts. My neck actually hurts and so does my back. Holy crap. So 2 Evijas, 2 days, perfect weather. I feel like I should have one giant conclusion. It's the best thing ever, or it sucks and we hate EVs. But just like real life, there's more shades of grey to it than that. Funnily enough, the things I thought I might have a problem with this car, specifically not having a V12 engine, haven't really proved an issue these last couple of days. The thing is so intense and the noises it makes feel appropriate. Everything's just coming at you so quick, it feels manic and it sounds manic too. So I quite like that. I like that there's some old school feel in it. The steering is lovely, the brake feels good. There's some traditional things that for someone like me who's been driving these cars for a long time, that's fantastic. But I do find myself actually torn a little bit because on the track, this car's so sophisticated, but I don't have what I feel like are the most sophisticated tools to tailor the way it feels, the way some performance cars do, be that adjustable traction control, maybe another mode that makes the car more playful. And on the road, it's rocket ship fast, but it finds itself a little bit tied in knots on bumpy roads. So it's not the lack of engine that's actually been a problem for me, it's just the subtleties of the dynamics. However, it is undeniably really, really exciting. Off the scale, the performance, it's nuts. And so while this might not replace the Valkyrie in my fantasy garage, I can see the point, I can see the appeal. It makes me feel some optimism about the future. And even now, this thing is already just a spaceship.